I'm sure by now everybody knows Steve Maxime. He works extensively in agribusiness development consultancies. His areas of specialization include project proposal development, implementation and evaluation, training in intersectoral linkages like agritourism, crop protection, development banking and agriculture development, and networking and social partnerships. He's also into this climate change area as well, and environmental issues. So he has a wide span of areas of interest and expertise. Next to Mr. Maxime, Frederica there. I won't tell you what she said her friends call her. I think only the Trinis will appreciate what it is. The potong of the Caribbean. Before I came to Trinidad, I didn't know what potong meant, because we don't have that in Dominica. So. Anyway, Frederica there. Schooled at UWI. She has a PhD in soil science. She's director of the Kyrie Consultants, which is a consultancy firm. She has 15 years of experience as a development consultant working in the OACS country, Turks and Caicos Islands, Cayman Islands, and in Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome, Ms. Dale, Dr. Dale. Then we have Rebecca Roberts-Bain, a diploma in agriculture, BSc in agriculture, MSc integrated environmental studies, BA in accounting, and financial analysis. She has worked with the Department of Agriculture in Tobago, like in Tobago and Trinidad. Tobago House of Assembly. She's worked with the Ministry of Food Production, Land, Marine and Affairs in the Extension Division, and she's now the Regional Agriculture Coordinator for the NGO Travel Foundation Tobago. So she's into the tourist field, and she's linking agriculture with tourism. So that's a good mix. And then we have Mrs. Marion Hart, of the Food Development Officer, 1988 to current, in the Barbados Agriculture Development and Marketing Corporation. She's a recipient of all, and she stressed all, prestigious awards given for food development in Barbados. And to name a few, the World Food Day Top Award from 1994, 1996, 08, etc., etc. Culinary Foundation, 1992. Enid Maxwell Award, 1996. National Scientific Award for the Best Biotechnology, and other numerous awards and accolades from government, non-governmental organizations, private sector, etc. She also had the Queen's Award and member of the British Empire in 2009. We are in the presence of royalty. And we always have to leave the last for the best. The last is the best, right? So, extremely honored and prestigious panel members. And there's much more I can say about her, but she's also involved in the, from the teacup to the bottle, pepper sauce, drying and storage of West Indian red pepper, distribution, utilization of breadfruit in Barbados, the state of agro-processing in Barbados. So she's a well-rounded, not physically, but she's a well-rounded and rounded person in agriculture. So panelists, I'd like to welcome you to the ART and look forward to your interventions. And as with the previous panels, you have a brief introductory comments on the theme, which we all know by now, and then we go back to the audience. So we'll start not with Mr. Maxime, but we'll start with the last sergeant first, Mrs. Hart. And before she starts, and she will tell you herself, she has so kindly brought us samples of her products, and she will explain to you what they are while we go around sharing some. Don't try to take all. We need to leave some for everybody. So she'll explain to you what those samples are when you get them.
Good evening or good afternoon, everyone. Good morning. Okay, well, that's very good. Guess we are happy. Let me say I am what you would have heard the lady spoke about everything, but let me just put it simply that I'm a lay person. I don't hold, and I don't think at this age I don't want to have a university degree. But I welcome all people who go on to tertiary institutions and who are doctors and who hold doctorate PhDs and all of that. We need those people. But we also need people like us. We also need farmers. And people like me, let me repeat that there was a lady, famous Barbadian lady by the name of Carmita Fraser, many of you would have heard the name. And whenever she starts the topic, she said, food comes first. And that topic, or that slogan is relevant when she said it in the early 1970s, as it is today, food comes first. Because we know that each and every one of us that live in the world, every living thing needs food to live. And without food, we cannot meet any other needs, because if our physical needs are not met, then we cannot meet any other needs. And I know you all would agree with me. Now, my job, or my task at the BADMC is to take all local produce, and I stress the word local, that is grown in Barbados and around the Caribbean, to make them into products, adding value to it, to make into products that have, one, nutritional value. That's my first thing, to look at nutritional value, by preserving them with, you know, different things like sugar, salt, vinegar, drying, and trying to use little or no chemicals, which makes it even better. And then I look after other groups, like my job entails a lot of training. So I go around to all the other ministries that you can name: education, health, tourism, all the ministries that you know. I go around to from time to time, churches, women's group, the prison, you know, National Assistance Board. I even go to where people call depressed areas and try to, you know, get people to come to formulate their minds of what we are sorely lacking in the Caribbean. And I do that solely because I'm a very young person. I'm 16 years old, if you reverse it. And during my time, I've never heard of things like so many cancer patients, cancer of the breast, communicable and non-communicable diseases, just to name a few. And I believe strongly, and I wouldn't elaborate too much, is that we dig our grave with our spoon. Whatever we eat, that decides on our health and longevity, or shortgevity. So I wouldn't want to go on any further. I'm going to just stop here, or just say that what I'm doing is to subsidize farmers' income, to avoid wastage, to encourage people to eat the traditional foods that we know of, and not to let the Barbadian or the Caribbean traditional cuisine go through the window. Because we're into era now with tourism, where we bring tourists here from all the, you know, big countries, Sweden, England, all that. But you know what we do? We bring the tourists on the plane, on air, and we bring the food in the boat, and the expats otherwise. So everything, even though we boast tourism and we host tourism, the Caribbean get very little. We get the remnants, because as I said, everything comes from overseas. And the tourists themselves, believe it or not, when they come to the Caribbean countries, they come to eat a good piece of fish, or a good piece of breadfruit, or some sauce, or pudding, or whatever, you know, backing on a nice coconut tree where they can have a picture taken and take back to the countries. But you know, we give them bacon and eggs. So I want you all to just, you know, be active, ask any questions from a layman's point, and I'll be willing to, you know, be active with the crowd. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hart. We're not going to order of things. I want to go what Mrs. Hart just said about local, adding value to local produce.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me, Dan. One of the issues that always struck me is this idea, this perception that we are not very innovative in this sector. This sector is the most competitive sector in this region. We are still here. We're still functioning, we are doing well, and this is something that I keep saying, we are doing well, because very few people in this sector admit that they're doing well. I am someone in this sector that's doing well, very well. And I'm doing very well because I've been able to keep track of the innovations that were necessary in this sector. When I started in agriculture, in 1975, the big link, yes, I'm another 54-year-old. 54 is the new 35, you know, right? Everybody says they're 54 now. No, the idea is that at that time, what was important was the linkages. I kept marketing myself just after I graduated as a linkage consultant. I was interested in the links between agriculture and health. We did all those programs with Rohit Doon and the Ministry of Health, etc. because I said, if you want to preserve the health of the region, agriculture is where you start. You don't want to take your best minds to send them into medicine and take what appears to be the dregs to get them into farming, because I never agree with that.
As Diane said, Kyrie has been doing a number of projects in the OECS countries, and every now and again I work with, I don't know if many of you know Dr. Ralph Henry. He loves to pitch ideas, and he loves us to, pitch ideas all over the Caribbean. And one of them actually is for us to have our own fair trade label. We are exporting bananas and exporting other crops, to other parts of the world. While in truth and in fact we have a captive audience here, we have a middle class, and that will include everyone that is not who we label as below the poverty line. We hope in time they will follow the trend as well. But everyone above the poverty line, and even those who we call vulnerable, and those are persons who are very close to the poverty line, who would, in times of upset, for example, if you have a natural disaster, or like we had this financial meltdown, they would find themselves in difficulties. But we do have, in that 6 million that is in the Commonwealth Caribbean, we're talking about 4 million people, right?
Now, in Tobago, what we've done is that we focus on developing or strengthening the supply chain linkage between the farmers or producers and the hotel industry. We have done that project from about 2004 with the help of the Mount St. George Farmers Association. And some of you may know Owen Dillon. He's now the president of the Tobago District Agricultural Society. And that project, we've seen a lot of successes. And the farmers have been able to supply more than 10 properties with fresh produce on a regular basis. But I want to say that the hotel industry is a very fickle one. You wouldn't believe what I'm talking about. Because there are challenges that they face, and yes, we understand that. But believe it or not, the bottom line is what counts. And if they can get a container coming in from Florida, with probably half-dead-looking tomatoes, and lettuce that wrinkled that has done its time, they prefer to take that than to take fresh, healthy, safe produce from farmers that are producing locally. We've done a couple of projects with farmers and schools including, and the schools have been supplying fresh herbs to some of the hotels. But our challenge is they tend to call you, especially when they can't get the produce elsewhere. And they also would prefer, when they have a very small number of persons on the property, to call you to ask you to supply 10 pounds of sweet potato. And you have to drive 20 miles to drop off 10 pounds of sweet potato. And the farmers, of course, are business people, and obviously would not want to even participate in something like that. So there are challenges. What we've done so far is that we've identified the challenges of such a project, of trying to strengthen that linkage. And we recognize their need for certain kind of infrastructure and support systems to be put in place. And we've set up a committee with persons from the Department of Agriculture, a couple of farmers, persons from the business sector, business development company, post-harvest specialists. And we're working on helping the farmers to set up a facility, a packing facility, through which they will help to add some value to the products they are collecting from the various locations of the farms. And then they could then work on we will want to look at it differently in terms of innovation. That if farmers themselves, whether it's done through a farmers cooperative or otherwise, the farmers themselves must not be responsible for the actual marketing of the produce.